How has knowing that you're going to become a dad changed you as a person?
Change me as a person. I think I was thinking about this a few days ago, and I think that I've started thinking about things in a much longer perspective. So I think before I knew I was going to be dad, the limits of my vision were like my own career, or maybe a bit longer to my own mortality. Whereas now I do tend to think in the generational terms. It sounds ridiculous saying it, but I think that like sometimes if I hear on the news, tariffs imposed by the US are going to cripple the UK economy. Suddenly, I'm thinking, if the housing market crashes, it's the kid that's going to be affected more than me. I'm already on the housing ladder. Or if you think about climate change, you think, oh god, suddenly I'm thinking 100 years ahead, or rather to the year 2100, which our children are highly likely to see. Whereas before, it's kind of like it's more your own horizon, isn't it? It's your own perspective. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. Yeah. So I've always thought in terms of 5 years.
Yeah.
3 years, 5 years. People say make a 5-year plan, and as a single man, that was always the only time scale I could really see. Even that's too far ahead. I normally think in terms of 6 months. I can see just about 6 months ahead, and that's what I've always used to get from where I am now to where I want to be. All this sorts of stuff. I want to find a wife, get a house, all this sort of stuff. 3 to 5 years is normally about as far ahead as you can see. 10 years as a single man, you can't. It's not. There's no point thinking that far ahead.
Yeah. No, that makes. Yeah.
But then I've spoken to a lot of current parents who have got teenagers, 15, 16-year-olds, sometimes older than that, and I thought, 16 years ahead of myself now. I just can't see it. All I can see is hopefully a little kid who doesn't want to have my values and hates me and wants to go and be independent and stuff.
Yeah.
That's sort of all I can see. It's like there's like a huge gap of time. There's like 3-5 years ahead of where I am now. Then there's like a black spot of 10 years. Then I can sort of see that. And then I just think, what's the world going to be like in 16 years?
Exactly.
And like you said, I've been thinking, is it going to be a world I really want to have them around in? I hope so, because people say it's getting better every day, the world, but I don't know.
I think I'd agree with that broadly. What I try to do is I rewind 16 years. And I think 16 years ago I was 15. I can remember being 15 very clearly. And I think about that amount of time till now. And I'm going to be honest, mate, it doesn't feel that long. It doesn't feel all that long. But yeah, I mean, your 5-year plan, you think about your 5-year marker posts. In 5 years, your kid will be in primary school. That's wild, isn't it?
That is, yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember being your first day of primary school?
I had several first days at primary school because I moved around so much as a kid every year or two. I remember several first days. So it was such a long time ago, though, very long time. And like for me, obviously being 32, that must have been like 20 to 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 27 years ago. It must have been our first
mid-90s.
I don't remember that. It was a completely different world back then.
It was a different world. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
do you think it's changed your attitude to risk at all?
So I've always been someone that would prefer to take a risk than not take a risk, because there's a lot of good things on the other side of risk, I think. And so when I take risks, it's never an uncalculated risk. It's never something I just do for the sake of it. It's always because I want to achieve something. So starting this podcast is a bit of a risk. I have to sacrifice a lot of time, and I have to sacrifice looking stupid, people laughing at me, doing a bad job of it, embarrassing myself, all these things. But on the other side of that, it could be really, really good. It could become a source of income, so I get more time with the kid on the way and more time with Emma, and I can show the kid that there's other ways of living and earning an income than just what we're told at school. So it's worth the risk, and I don't think I'm any less likely to take risks knowing there's a kid on the way. So obviously hitchhiking was a really risky thing to do. Would I do that again now? Probably, yeah. If the events were aligned in such a way that was something I wanted to do. But it's weird because the risks have to. I worry more about the risks paying off. So I will still take risks. I still do every day, but I work a lot harder to make it a good payoff, if that makes sense.
I like your attitude that you said before, that you manage risk, you don't remove risk. And I think when you think about it like that, it becomes easier to make decisions. Like if you remove risks in their totality, well, number one, that's not possible, but number two, you'll never achieve anything.
Yeah.
So it's weighing risk sensibly. I like that.
Yeah, because you have to take risks, because there is a risk in taking no risks at all.
Yeah.
If you take no risks at all, you stay still. You become too safe. And obviously having a kid on the way, if they see you taking no risks and being too safe, I think that's worse than taking risks and them paying off badly.
You'll never achieve anything, yeah.
And they'll never achieve anything.
Like with your mega trip, it would have been easier for you to not do that. That would have been the easier route. But I won't speak for you. I'm sure you're glad you did it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's managing the risk. I think how old were you when you started your trip? Your mega trip, you're 21?
24.
24. So we've talked, haven't we, about the difference in risk-taking attitudes pre and post 25, and about how the age of 25 is the kind of the zenith of your testosterone or whatever attitude makes young men more prone to taking foolish risks. I had an example of that. It made me think of that when I was on one of my little sailing trips a while back, and one of my cousins who was with me, who is, I think at the time he was 20, 21, and I was 30, we were on board, and we were at a point of sail called Close Reach, and there was a really strong wind, and the vessel was tipping over really aggressively, which is completely normal, but it can be terrifying and uncomfortable. And we had a lot of people on board who were not experienced sailors, and I was skipper, unfortunately, which I don't enjoy being. And people were looking at me concerned and looking at me, I guess, to give reassurance, like, we're not enjoying this. Yeah. And they're looking to the skipper to give reassurance, say this is normal. And I was thinking, I'm not enjoying this either. I'm trying to keep a smiley face. And I say to my cousin who's at the helm, why don't we bear away from the wind a bit and put some reefs in? He goes, no, it's fine. And then he closes into the wind a bit more and we heel over even more. At 45 degrees, the water's coming well over the windows and slopping onto the deck a bit, which again, it's not unsafe. But I was at this point, I was uncomfortable. And I said, Gus, we're really going to need to bear away. And he's like, no, it's fine. And eventually I had to insist, no, it's just, we do. But in that moment, when I insisted that we do bear away, I suddenly realised that was the difference in attitudes. My cousin, who was 21, is still in that risk-taking attitude. He was enjoying it. He was having the time of his life. And me being in my early 30s thinking, this is awful. This is uncomfortable. We need to stop. But I think you can, when you're conscious of it, you can see it really clearly. Completely different mindsets. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's a documented thing in the literature, the change in testosterone levels between young men and
old men.
People our age.
People our age, yeah.
Yeah, so from about age 13, 15, your testosterone level shoots right up all the way through to about 25, 27. For me, it was 26 and a half, it dipped. I remember feeling it. So it was around the time that I'd reached Australia by hitchhiking, and I was looking at the map and I was just thinking, I was more scared. I was more scared of it because the heightened testosterone makes you less scared of stuff, which isn't always good. Because like you say, you're not as aware of risk. You're not as aware of stuff that could be damaging to you. And I remember that happening to me, and so I don't think it was why I didn't continue hitchhiking. I think I'd reached that point where I'd sort of done the trip I wanted to do, and I just wanted to come home, really. I just wanted to build up a life, and that was enough. But yeah, there is a dip at about 27, and yeah. So has my approach to risk changed? I think in some ways it has. Yeah, I'm more aware of things that could go wrong, and they scare me a bit more. But I still see the benefits of taking them. I know a lot of men when they have kids and when they start to get older, they just get too safe. They get too anxious about stuff. But I suppose I'm trying to fight that off really because
Yeah.
I've taken many risks in my life, and the vast majority of them have paid off. There's been a few that haven't paid off, and they've gone quite badly for me. So there is a limit to that. But yeah.
Do you think that might? So I think maybe there's two things there. Number one, we're both getting older, but also number two, we're both become parents, and suddenly we're not just gambling with our own lives; we're gambling with the kid's life as well. Indirectly, gambling with the prospect the kid will grow up with either an incapacitated or absent father. I think that might tie into it. I had a similar experience when I was a scuba diver went on recently, which was probably the I won't say most dangerous. That's a bit dramatic, but the most technically advanced dive I've ever done. And on the way to the wreck in the boat, I was suddenly aware that I was scared. I was afraid, and I thought, well, what the heck is this? You know, I've done dives before. I've done shipwrecks, and nothing new to me. But in retrospect, I think that was because I was suddenly conscious that if I conked out on a dive, it would have been a bummer for me. But no one else's life is going to be ruined. Whereas this time, if I didn't come out from that dive, the kid grows up without dad, which can be catastrophic.
Yeah, I think for me, the kid not growing up with a dad, it's more what I'm worried about is the kid not growing up with me, because I know I can do such a good job as a dad. How do you see your role as a dad in shaping not just this kid and the kid's life, but I suppose the future of your family and the future of your community?
Goodness.
It's quite a deep question, isn't
Blimey,
it?
my role. I would like to think that I would encourage the kid to take risks, manage risks, to embrace failure, which is something we've spoken about before as well. And those things all sound terribly cliche, don't they?
No, not at all.
But I think that, yeah. I mean, it's hard to not psychoanalyze your own life up to this point and try to identify gaps that you wish had been filled. But I had a very good childhood, so I mean, I would like to think that I would do my best to give the kid the opportunities I had. What about you?
I think. Oh God. So it was, how do I see myself? What influence do I see myself playing in shaping this child's life and I suppose the future of the family as well? So up to now, I think my family's never really had a happy marriage, which is quite sad. My side of the family, so Emma's side, has had nothing but that. So I think what I want to do is just firstly give this child a solid, unbreakable foundation that it can build itself up from, which is why we got married before having a child. And people say that it's just a bit of paper. It's not at all. You'll know this. I personally feel me and Emma being together is just it's axiomatic. It's just how it is. There's no negotiation on that. We work very hard to keep the relationship not just open and happy, but we're constantly communicating. We have weekly meetings to flesh out all the little things that pop up that might steer us off course and steer us away from each other. So I really want the kid to have that as its foundation, because I think growing up, maybe that's one of the things I missed was having that unbroken foundation, I suppose. And there's reasons for that. There was lots of moving around and stuff like that, but I turned out pretty well. I like to think.
I'd agree with that, mate. Yeah.
As for the future of the family, I suppose just all these values of, well, following what your path is in life. Everyone's got their own path, and a lot of people are too scared to step onto it because it means letting stuff go, and it means growing into a new version of yourself. So part of you has to die, and that's quite scary. So I suppose I'd want to teach this kid and sort of cultivate a family where people are just on their journey that they're called on to be, because it's the only way you should live, really. I think is doing what you're here to do, and I'm sort of still doing that, even though I completed this big adventure. There's still loads to do. So I've set up a charity, as you know, and working really hard as a husband, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think over the last maybe 80 years, 100 years, as a culture, we've had obviously a lot of trauma. We've had World War II. We've had a generation that would just not talk about problems and buckle down. And as long as you're not being shot at, everything's okay. Doesn't matter if you're happy or not. And then he had generation after that, our parents. And then there's us, and we're sort of a generation that's now talking about stuff and being open and about how we're feeling. And I'd be interested to see where that goes, really, because some people think, are we too open about things like mental health now and people's feelings, or have we got it right? I don't know. Like, what do you think about all that?
Wow, a lot to unpack.
Bit of a
I completely empathise where you're coming from with regards to the stability of marriage being a foundation on which to build a family. It is a cliche, but I do think it's true. My parents also split when I was very small, and I never really thought much of it because it happened when I was so young. To me, it was very normal. There's a lot of kids like myself. A lot of kids have that story. My parents are both very competent, good people who did fantastic, who lived up to the task. They lived up to the roles that life gave them, and I hope to be able to do as well. But I do think it affected me psychologically in ways that you only really realise when you're older. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of stuff I took for granted when I was a kid, as I've got to become an adult, I think that it did leave a mark. I'm not going to say negative at all. It wasn't like a bad thing, but it was unconventional. I think, it has emphasised for me the importance of the nuclear family. I think. This sounds more like a therapy session, isn't it? Really deep here. But to me, I think it's crystallised the importance of the relationship on which the family is built. As you just said, marriage. I agree that it's not just a piece of paper. I think it's almost an emergent property of a relationship that is established and stable enough to provide for a family. It's an overt statement of we're committed to each other. We're committed to building a monogamous relationship in a home in which to build a family. I do think that matters. And people raise families perfectly well without marriage as well. But I personally agree that it's important. And I was lucky in that, as I said, my parents were competent and good people, so they handled the breakup really well, and they both prioritised me over themselves. So I was very lucky in that respect. A lot of couples that have been through that journey didn't have that. So I know examples of relationships that have fallen apart post having children, and it's been destructive. So yeah, for me, that my relationship with Charlotte is the most important thing, because if that's strong, then we're armed and ready to deal with whatever the world throws at us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
No, it makes you think. My parents thankfully handled things quite well, and I just think if we've ended up like this, what can our kids end up like if the parents are together and united with a strong foundation? So I suppose it's a bit of an experiment, really. See how much better it is. Because Emma's parents were together
Yeah.
like we want to be. And I noticed with her, do you know much about attachment styles?
I know nothing about attachment styles. Enlighten me.
So there's 3 attachment styles. It's about how you're attached to your partner. You've got the secure attachment, which is what Emma is. You're basically very healthy emotionally. If your partner comes home and they're in a mood, you can say, "Yep, they're in a mood. I'll give them some space, or I'll talk to them, whatever. But I'm okay." If they come home and they're in a really good mood, or they're feeling extra clingy the other way, you're okay with that. You can give it to them a bit, and you sort of give what your partner needs, and you're secure enough in yourself that you're not really irked by it. You then got the anxious style, so secure, anxious. Anxious is what you'd call a clingy person or a needy person. They basically need you, and they get anxious if they don't get what they need. And so if that person sees their partner withdrawing away, then they're not happy about it, basically. So I've had partners like that before. So my attachment style is avoidant, the avoidant style.
That sounds negative, man.
Well, it's got its negative
Yeah.
connotations. Emma's helped me become more secure, but there's the avoidant type, which is if there's anything wrong in the relationship, they tend to shut down, withdraw, avoid. And so the avoidant and the anxious types tend to suck each other in. They tend to be drawn together because the avoidant type secretly wants to be sought after and wanted, and the anxious type really wants attention from the avoidant types. And the anxious type, when it doesn't get attention, it's sort of intrigued. It's like, oh, what's going on? So it ramps it up to try and get attention off the avoidant type. And so I think this kid's probably going to have a very secure attachment style because you can get you get the anxious and the avoidant types.
Do people tend to stick into one bracket, or do they rotate through the styles?
It tends to be just you're sort of in one bracket. You can move. It's like a spectrum. You've got avoidant, anxious on each end, and then secure in the middle. And you can move towards the middle, but you tend to not go beyond the middle, if that makes sense.
And would that style be dictated by the relationship, or do you think it's an inherent property of the person? If one person's always an avoidant type, whoever they go out with, they'll be in the same sort of window.
Yeah, so it tends to form in childhood, your relationship with your parents, really. And that's why I came onto it, because so obviously my avoidant style formed with sort of relationship with parents, that kind of thing. I think my reaction to everything was to just act as if I'm not bothered, sort of detach a bit, because that normally happens when the kid's in just a bit too much pain. They think, oh no, this is, I don't care, whatever. So I suppose me as a dad to be, I just want to give that kid a secure base to become healthy in future relationships, because most of my partners, pretty much all my partners, have been the anxious type, and it's always ruined the relationship. I think there's been times like conflict would arise out of seemingly nothing. Like I'd be doing nothing on purpose, or I'd have done nothing, and they'd be really, really upset, or I'd be upset and they've done nothing wrong and stuff. But I noticed with Emma that sometimes I'll do something that would have really annoyed someone in the past, and she'll be absolutely fine. She'll just let it diffuse, and then we're good again. So it's really good. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, went off again a bit.
No, that's really interesting. That's new to me. I never studied Freud. So.
No, it's someone called Bowlby. I can lend you a book about it if you want. It's a really simple theory to understand.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. How's your relationship with Charlotte sort of leading up to this baby, do you think?
I think it's changed. I think that our collective efforts have switched onto something other than just indulging ourselves, because like many people in our late 20s, life was basically just one long party for about 10 years, which was fantastic, but things are changing, and you kind of touched on something like this earlier, but I feel like from school onwards, everything is geared towards the next milestone. Like your 5-year marker post, you study hard to get the grades. You get the grades to go to uni or to technical training, whatever, and then your goal is then to pass your degree or whatever vocational program you're on, and then it's right. You start your career and you're working to impress your employer to move along the career ladder. And then it's saving for a house, and you save, and then it's find a partner and build a stable relationship, and then get married, or whatever you choose to. But it's always very the next goal is very clear, and I feel like the ultimate one is parenting. That is it. So I had a time when I got my current job, and I got into a stable relationship with Charlotte, and knew that she was one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, and it was a little bit like, oh God, what now? Because everything has been moving towards the next goal. And I feel like parenting is just the last manifestation of that impulse, because you'll be doing it for the rest of your life. Like, this is it, the rest of your life. And so we're kind of both moving towards that at the same time. So we've got we're both very tangibly pulling in the same direction, which I think is fantastic. And it's the reason for which I emphasise the importance of the stable relationship, because you're both putting in the same direction, and will be for the rest of your life, and it's something that literally 100% of my ancestors succeeded in. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I'm not going to be the one to drop the ball. Yeah. What about you?
It's just interesting thinking every one of our ancestors has successfully done this before. And I think when the baby's there, it's been just born, it's in my hands.
Yeah.
I think there'll be this moment where I look at it and I just think, this action right here is connecting me with millennia of ancestors. Yeah. As far back as, beyond the time we were even human.
Yeah.
And I just think that'll be quite a moment. But yeah, how has my relationship changed with Emma? We haven't actually known each other that long. We got married after a year of meeting.
It's a beautiful day.
And then it was, you officiated it.
I did.
Very good time.
Unofficially officiated.
Well, and basically ran the whole thing, made sure everything was, It
was a wonderful day.
Yeah, thanks again, by the way.
It was a beautiful day. Pleasure.
Always in your debt for that. And then within about another half a year, she was pregnant. So, within 2 years of meeting, she'll have my baby. So that's not very long at all. So how has the relationship changed? It hasn't really. I think it's always been a relationship based on, we're going to get married and have a child. Let's work towards that from day one. Because there was very little time from meeting to getting together. She had a boyfriend at the time, but you know that saying, when you know, you know. I always thought that was a load of crap, but we did know. We definitely knew straight away. It was just a matter of, how do we make it happen? And so, we just made it happen very quickly. I proposed within 6 months. So I don't think we've really changed at all.
I remember shortly after you met her, we went on a ex-bed, and you spent the entire ex-bed talking about her.
Did I really?
You did, mate. You were like a teenager. Within about an hour, I thought, I know where this is going. Okay, Tom, just ask her out.
Yeah. No, we were texting the whole time. Not.
Were you?
Actually, that
explains a lot.
That ex-bed, the 2 days, was probably the longest we've gone without talking, because I said to her, I need to just have a couple of days with Oscar, just in the mountains, just to think about things and whatever. And so, we didn't talk about that, but the whole time around that, we were sending like 2-3 page essays by text the whole time. And I remember my mum, when I met up with my mum to go shopping shortly after meeting her, she said I looked like a teenager again. Like the smile on my face was just, so we...
It's a beautiful thing, man. Beautiful thing.
Yeah, because she said as well, she was texting, in the beginning, she was thinking, I've got a long-term boyfriend, it's all in my group of friends, it's all well established, we're happy, or we're content, things are okay. And it's going to upset a lot of people ending that. And so apparently she kept typing out messages saying, I'm sorry, I just can't see you anymore, and this and that, but she could never send it. It never felt like the right thing to say. So eventually she just said, oh no, I've just got to see where this goes. So yeah, so that's that. So I suppose as well, it's just good to know that we're that person to each other. We're soulmates, really. So
the rest is history.
There's no reason not to get married. So that's that. It's just good to know as well for this kid that it's two parents who are actually you always think, oh, my parents are meant to be together, they're my parents, but they're not always supposed to be. And I suppose it's good to know that when this kid thinks that, it's going to actually be true.
Yeah. Yeah, you touched on something there, which I think it's worth going into, about how when you hold the kid for the first time, it's something that it's stretching back and forwards. Like it's that moment has been the same through the whole of human history. You know, your ancestors going back to time immemorial have all probably been in the same position. And I was talking to a friend about this. Interested to get your opinion. I feel like if you were to be zapped back in time to the Roman era or whatever, sometime in the distant history, you would, if you were to talk to someone in your position, so someone who's a new parent to be, a young man, new parent to be, I think most people would be staggered by the amount they have in common. And what I'm getting at there is, I don't think the basic experience of being a parent has really changed through the whole of, for at least as long as we've been living in organised, structured societies. Because people tend to think, well, of course it'd be different. You'd be, if you're born in the early 20th century, you'll be dying of smallpox at the age of 5, or infant mortality was whatever 3 and 4, or I don't know, whatever it is. They'll point to high level things to make the case that the parenting experience is wildly different, and I really don't think it is. I think you'll be amazed by how much you have in common, because people don't think high level on a day-to-day basis. People don't think about, you don't wake up in the morning and think about, God, the international rise of populism is going to really stress me out today. You think about the things that are within your immediate first person experience, i.e. what's my financial situation like next month? Am I going to have enough money to meet the bills, or are we going to go on a holiday to Greece or wherever? But you think more about your immediacy. Like, my mum's hip is really giving her pain, what can I do about it? Or have I done the right thing with the nursery? But these things have always been there. As long as we've been living in structured societies, someone in, I think, like Victorian era would have widely the same problems that you and I do today. Does that make sense? What do you think?
Well, as a man in his 30s, I wake up. So when I wake up in the morning, I suppose you could go down levels of resolution of my thoughts. So initially I've got to get to work today, or I've got to do this podcast with Oscar, or I need to go make a mug of hot water to start the day, like really basic stuff that's kind of here and now. And then, but as I go down the levels, there's insecurities, there's, how do my friends see me, how does my family see me? And like you said, that's going to be exactly the same going back through time.
They are timeless concerns.
What's my status like
relative to your peers in particular?
And you said relative to my peers, how can I both compete and cooperate with peers and family and co-workers, stuff like that? Because,
sorry to jump in there, but people will, the friend I was talking to was saying about how what is the wealthiest echelon of society has become wealthier, and how the problems at the extremists have changed, which is true, but people don't tend to compare themselves to the widest possible extreme of wealth or class disparity, whatever. You think about people who are your contemporaries, who you associate with, and those, you're worrying about your status relative to those people has always been that way. I take kind of reassurance in that. I take kind of the problems that I face are likely to have been encountered by many, many Goodmans going back throughout history, and are clearly surmountable.
Yeah, you're always going to be in the middle of the hierarchy, no matter what you do. If you become a millionaire, you're going to be poorer than a few millionaires around you, but richer than some people. If you then become a billionaire, there's going to be other billionaires out there, and there's going to be people poorer and richer than you, and you're always going to compare yourself with the people that are just ahead of you and just behind you. That tends to be what you look for. So
because they're the people you encounter usually on a day-to-day life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose you're looking for people to become more like. Who can you move towards being a bit more like? Who do you want to move away from being more like? Like, it's pointless comparing myself to someone who's got £1 billion in the bank, because they're just a different. I don't really want that for myself because of all the stuff that would come with it, but also like they're just so different from who I am. It's just there's going to be no comparisons to draw, really.
I looked at like the dance has changed, but the tune's the same.
Yeah, well like history rhymes. It doesn't necessarily repeat. It rhymes with itself.
And the motivations that one will experience are consistent. You want to better yourself, better your family. You're concerned for the people around you, people you care about.
You want to have a stable source of food, shelter,
exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's money today, but it used to be animals, hunting, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, the drives, the worries, the concerns, they're very much the same at the very core. How do you see the influence of your own father or father figures in your life in influencing how you're going to become a father?
My dad was always very stable. He was he is. It's the problem. I feel like I'm not doing an autopsy.
Sorry, before we get on to that, could you outline, because I actually don't know, outline myself as well. Is it just your biological dad at home, that's it, divorced from your mum, or is there like a stepdad involved? Or
so I had a stepdad for a while. I don't anymore. I have my dad, my stepmum, and my mum. In that configuration. But yeah, my dad and stepmum don't live far away, so they are very, very excited to become parents, as is grandparents, as is my mum. So this is kind of one of the things that's great for people like myself, in that I have a lot of family close by. So I feel like the deck's kind of stacked in my favour. But yeah, my dad in particular, kind of going into fatherhood, looking at my dad, he was very stable, very selfless, and put his kids ahead of himself in all arenas, which to me as a kid was always very normal, always seemed normal. But as I've grown up and I've looked at other people who grew up in the same sort of world as myself, who had fathers who were not all of those things, it's the sort of thing you, as an adult, breathe a sigh of relief, and that you weren't messed up in that way. So I think, to put it as simply as possible, seeing the effect that others, seeing the effect of the failure of other fathers, other than my own, and other friends of mine, has shown me the stakes, I think. Does that make sense?
Well, I think
quite woolly.
I think as well, people think that you can get by without a dad, just a mum, which you can. There's plenty of
examples of people who did.
Plenty of examples. I can name.
But the deck's stacked against you in that respect.
Yeah, I think you do need a dad. It's like, but I think you can do a lot of damage by being a bad father, definitely. So
I served for a short while in the police, and we looked at it as in ACEs, which are known as adverse childhood experiences. I'm sure you've known about these in your vocation as well. And I think the idea is, if you have like 2 or 3 of them, you're pretty stuffed. And one of those is either a totally absent or malign father. And the malign aspect in particular, if, as you correctly said, many people who have terrible fathers, abusive fathers, do grow up to be perfectly functional, decent, good people. But those people are the exception rather than the rules. If you have a particularly abusive father, you're pretty stuffed. Yeah.
Mm.
That's not. I think that's another example of how these things are. These stories are as old as time. That's always been the case. People have always thought, God, I really hope I don't do as bad as that guy. For as long as dads have been dads.
Mm.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think my philosophy to being a dad is I think as long as I'm just around and I do my best and I just love it and I help Emma a lot, then surely I can't do that badly. If I just try, I think that's all you have to do to be a good dad is just be around and try.
Compassion and common sense.
Yeah, and I think as well as a dad, I think you're there to be what would you say, the boundaries that society puts in place. So I think that the mother's there to love it unconditionally, to I've gone blank.
I think both sides, unconditional love is important on both sides. I wouldn't describe that as a maternal or paternal thing. I totally agree that there are differences in the roles, but I think unconditional love is arguably the most important thing on both sides. My mum always said that. As long as you give unconditional love, you can't go far wrong. She also said something which I really, really like, which is I asked her a while back, how much did it cost to raise a kid? Because we always hear about how it's going to bankrupt you and it's going to be, it's eye-wateringly expensive. And I said, Mum, how much did it cost? And she goes, it'll cost all your money, Oscar. And I said, what a terrible answer. What do you mean it'll cost all your money? I said, it'll cost all your money. I said, specifically how much? Like, as in, roughly how much I earn. What percentage of my income should I expect to have to spend on a kid? And Oscar, it'll cost all your money. I said, you're not helping here, man. But as I badgered her, I kind of realised what she was saying, which is that it will take all of your time and spare finance. You will make it work, whatever your socioeconomic background is. If you've got the basic skill set, you'll make it work. But it will cost all your money. If you're dirt poor, you'll manage. If you're very, very wealthy, you'll manage. But it will still cost, eye-watering amounts of money, which I quite like. Yeah.
Yeah.
How have you been prepping, do you think?
Yeah, so we've basically said... Initially we said we want to be really minimal with everything and being told you need this, you need that, all these things to have a baby. I got kind of annoyed because I was thinking, no, it's just the baby industry trying to make me spend all my money on stuff I don't need, and most of it you don't actually need, because all we've done really is we've just talked to people who have had a couple of kids and people that are quite like us. They're quite minimal, they're quite sensible with money. And we've just said to them, what do we need? Write me a list. And we've compared the lists and we've gone with whatever's on that list. There's things on the list like a snot sucker.
Oh.
So I said to Emma, do we really need something like that?
Sounds like a playground insult.
It does, yeah.
You snot sucker, Tom.
But apparently we need that. And I just thought, our ancestors, going back to being part of this line of ancestors, it's only the past, say, 30 years that we've been as rich as we have. All my parents were relatively poor in today's standards, and I just thought they didn't have a snot sucker. They just dealt with it, and it probably makes life easier. And you need this special attachment for them in the bath. Apparently you do. So I've just said to Emma, you're going to be the one who's responsible for that. Your job is going to be, obviously I'm going to do 50-50. Caring for the baby, changing nappies, all this stuff, but it's your responsibility to source all this stuff. I'll give you at least half the money, and also tell me, just instruct me on certain things. I'll obviously get to the point where I can just do it unprompted. I can change a nappy when it starts to smell, that kind of thing. But I just feel like she's a lot more in tune with it because it's coming out of her body. It's going to be bonded with her for about 6 months. They're going to be one organism. I've been told that Emma's going to be pretty much gone from me for about 6 months, and a lot of men I think have a bit of trouble with that. They think they're all close, there's lots of oxytocin going around, they feel very bonded with their partner, and then suddenly they're distant.
There's something more important than
just
them.
with the baby. There's something more important than them, exactly. And
I think there's two ways of looking at this. So that there was I feel like the the biological stuff, the man, like in the actual birthing unit, for example, the man has to accept their second place.
Mm-hmm.
They have to accept they're going to be told what they're doing. And certain aspects of the biological child rearing, they have to accept that they're second place. But all of the other stuff, it is 50-50. Mm. All of the, so you're in the lead up towards birth and kind of the wider parenting aspects after, you're making decisions in the interest of the child based on all the available information. And those are decisions where the man and woman have equal stake. I really do think that. But then there are certain domains where, sorry, son, she's got the trump card. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's her body. She's the one giving birth to it. Mm-hmm. I'm making it sound like a thing. She's the one giving birth to the child. We are there to support her initiative, her agenda, her decisions. We're there to advocate for her. And I think that's important to remember. It doesn't mean a man's less important than a woman. It doesn't mean that the man's voice doesn't matter. But there are two different arenas. One which is hers, and you're fighting her corner, but not leading. And the other one, where you've got equal stake, 50-50. Mm. And it's just to try to remember that, yeah, it doesn't mean you're less important. Mm. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I just think that she's going to be in charge for a while.
Yeah.
Really.
The what you said there about being told you need things when you feel you don't. I think that is one of the things that's driven me nearly to radicalisation. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like the market's very good at monetising the particularly new first-time parental instinct to spend whatever money they can to protect the kid. And the market is really good at preying on that. It's like, if you really care about your child, you'd buy this widget attachment. You know, 80% of new parents buy this one, and of course it's the most expensive one. You know, if you really care about your kid, you know, you don't want to sacrifice on safety, do you? So you've got to spend more money here. And I completely agree. It's like, it will be fine. It will be okay. We're trying to buy to need. Our idea is to try to buy to need.
Yeah. We bought
and maybe we'll need a snot sucker. Maybe 6 months' time, Tom. We're calling each other going, oh, thank God for that snot sucker. I really, please sucking snot myself if I didn't have a snot sucker.
Like the Eskimos. Yeah, we bought second hand where we can. A lot of stuff second hand. We went into this shop called Mamas and Papas. It's like Mothercare for.
We got given a whole bunch of gift cards from Mamas and Papas. We haven't been yet, but
I absolutely hate that shop. We went in, but we had to buy a pushchair, buggy, pram. I don't know what the difference is. They're all the same thing. They've got four wheels, and you put the baby in it, and it doesn't fall out. And you push it along. That's great. So we went in. We had this idea of what we wanted to buy, and we said we're looking for this sort of pushchair. We want big wheels because we want to take it off road. We want to go on the footpaths, that kind of thing. What have you got in? It's got to fit in the car, like the boot of a Mini Cooper. And they were like, oh, there's only this one possible option. There were about 50 different buggies in the whole shop.
And did they bring you straight to the most expensive one?
So they brought us along to one that was £600, and it was an ex-display model. And they sold it. They were trying to sell it to us like it was a really good deal, like we were stealing. You know,
it probably is.
And so £600. It weighed 13 kilograms. And I just thought, I watched Emma handle it, because I thought Emma's probably going to be the one handling this most of the time, because I'm going to be out working. And she could barely lift it, and I just thought, like, I feel so pressured right now. This woman was basically a dodgy car salesman, forcing us into it, like trying to make us make decisions before.
Did she emphasise all the safety features?
She was emphasising all sorts of stuff.
Because that's what they do. They try to make you think, I don't want to cut costs here, do I?
She kept saying stuff like, oh, you have to take it away today. There's no refunds. Like, oh, right now, good deal. And we just walked off to the other side of the shop, said we needed time to think. And we just looked at each other and said, like, I feel like we're being manipulated here. So I got my phone out and I started searching for the one that we wanted to get. It's a Swedish brand. And it was 3/4 of the weight and 2/3 of the price, brand new. And it was exactly the same size, so it's fit in the car. And I just thought, like, it's a lot cheaper, and it's new, and it's a better brand. And it was like, I was just like, what's going on? So we just walked out. We just didn't say anything.
Good for you. Yeah.
I just thought, like, oh my God, so many new parents go in there not having a clue, not doing any research, and they just get absolutely taken advantage of. So that's really what we're so scared of happening to us, like buying stuff we don't need or buying all this, all that. Yeah.
I describe it as the wedding effect. It's the wedding up marks. Like you've got these napkins, 100 for £2 from B&M or whatever. We've got wedding napkins, which is like £10 for 5 of them.
Yeah.
It's like you add the, and yeah.
But if you really love each other,
if you really love each other, you buy this one. Yeah, if you really love to, you buy. I felt like such a mug. Well, I got Charlotte's engagement ring from Hatton Garden, and I walked into those shops, and they saw me coming as like a young bloke there on his own. It's a perfect market. They look at you like the way like Nosferatu looks at a virgin's jugular. Yeah. Like they just, yeah, awful. What you described there about the prams being, we had the same thing. We ended up buying second hand because we were so frustrated with trying to be pressure sold things that were like thousands, literally thousands. Do you remember in the 90s when we were kids and buggies were collapsible little things? Yeah. They weighed almost nothing. I could pick one up when I was 5. Yeah. It collapsed and our parents were fine. Yeah. It was okay. We didn't fall out.
I did fall out apparently. My dad forgot.
Well, that's you, Tom. Of course you did.
My dad forgot to strap me in, and we were going downhill, and I just fell out.
You probably jumped out, mate. Let's be honest.
Probably trying to get away.
Saw a tree or something. Yeah. But they try and buggies these days they're like Transformers. I remember like Autobots that like collapse in on themselves and they're so heavy and big and and they are complicated. We had to watch YouTube videos how to collapse ours.
Also, I just think like 500 years ago they didn't have buggies, did they? Like the mother just carried it.
Well, I'm a fan of papooses. I like papooses. You got your arms free as well, then, haven't you?
Yeah, and they're on you like they want to be.
Yeah. Apparently, you can only use papooses for like 6 months.
From 6 months.
So, well, when they can sustain their own head.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So I've been told. I've never done this before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've grown quite fond of the expression "man proposes, God disposes," because we've got all of these plans, and I'm absolutely sure they'll all be shot down quite quickly. Like no good plan survives first contact. So I strongly believe it's most important to have principles. You have principles and philosophies that you've agreed with your partner on how you're going to handle things. You have plans are good, but accept that no good plan will survive first contact, and you'll have to adapt, and it will be okay. You will be okay. It will be hard, but it'll be okay.
The kid's going to look back in 18 years, and they're not going to remember. Did you have this? Did you have that? How big was your house? All this sort of stuff. I think they're just going to remember if you were there or not, and if you cared and if you loved them. So
yeah,
I look back at my childhood. I don't remember anything that we had, really. I remember places that we lived, but that's just a part of my past, not we had this, we had that. I just remember were my parents there or not, and how did I feel in their presence, and did they encourage me? Did they do this? Did they do that? It's like all I remember is how were my parents towards me.
Yeah.
Did they love me? Yes or no?
Do you think you'd have been happier if your parents had a Porsche and you lived in a 6-bed detached in Charlton Kings?
No, because they'd have been busier. I wouldn't have had
that's
them
a very
as
good
much.
point. That's a very good point. Yeah, they'd have been busier. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, my biological dad, he used to always go on about this new car he's got. It was a new. Every time he used to come and see me, it was a new car, and it was just I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I just wanted my dad.
Of course you didn't. You're a kid. Yeah.
And that was it. If we have the same car for 10 years, I don't really care if it fits the kid in. If we can go on holidays everywhere, we've already said to Emma we're going to just use all our extra money to go on adventures all the time. We're going to go to Scandinavia, we're going to go to Europe, we want to go to the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, just driving or flying, whatever. We don't want a big house, we don't want an impressive car, all this sort of stuff. We just want experience and we want time with the child. I just think the more money I have, the more I've got to be away.
Yeah, and also the opportunities for the kid to do things as well.
Yeah,
to push itself and do things. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Have you noticed that people, when you say you're having a kid, reflexively start talking about the most negative aspects of having a kid?
Yeah, I think so. So they ask firstly, how long is it till it's here? And then they do start going into life's about to change.
Yeah. Soon
you're going to be this man that can never do any right. It's always your fault. Better get used to that. I said this to Emma and I said, is it going to be my fault all the time? Are you just going to become this woman who's like, and she's like, no, because it's my fault as well sometimes. Yeah. And I think there's one thing we do differently. Obviously this is quite naive maybe to say we're going to be different to everyone, but we talk every week for 90 minutes at least. We meet up deliberately and just talk about some of it's admin, some of it's diary stuff, but a lot of it is just we just talk about the stuff that a married couple normally keeps to themselves. Things like, what's annoyed you about me this week? Oh, you didn't do the washing up when you said you would, or you thought this was my fault, but it wasn't. And because it's out of context, because it's not in that situation anymore, both of us can actually sit back and think, how did I contribute to that, to her or him being upset? And the rule is we have to actually ask ourselves, how did I contribute to this? And what we do now, I think we've practiced that so much that actually in the situation now, we can notice how we've contributed to the other person being upset. So I like to think that when something is Emma's fault, she'll at least acknowledge it, maybe retrospectively. But I do as well. Like if I've done something wrong, I'll just apologise there and then. And I think a lot of people don't really do that. My own parents didn't do that. It was always
I like
they
that.
had to be right.
I like that. Yeah.
And I mean, if you win an argument, you can never really win an argument with your partner. You can win the argument, but
because they're not your problem or her problems. They're both of your problems. So
yeah, well, as well,
yeah.
like if you win an argument, if you defeat the other person, all you've got is someone who loves you a bit less
and is a bit ticked off.
It just becomes a bit of resentment.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah,
it's to remember you're both shooting the same direction.
Yeah.
Do you want me to pass you your water, Nanny?
No, I'm okay.
Right.
That's shooting in the same direction. When we have these meetings, we always sit next to each other.
Yeah.
As well, we're never opposite each other.
Not like the House of Commons.
No, exactly. We're always right next to each other,
Yeah.
facing the same target and moving in the same direction together.
No, I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So, good place to end. Last question though. Are you excited, nervous, or a bit of both?
Excited, nervous, a bit of both. I've been asked this a lot. Are you nervous? Are you excited? I think the most appropriate word is daunted. Because people are saying, "Oh, I bet you're nervous," and I don't want to sound cocky, but I'm not. I'm not nervous, but nervous has negative associations. But I am daunted. It's a big thing, and as I said, I think the deck's stacked in our favour. We've got strong relationship, we've got a strong support network. So I don't think I'm nervous. But that's in as I was saying a minute ago. I found a lot of people reflexively talking about the worst parts of parenthood, which I found very frustrating. But get ready for no sleep, or get ready for sleep, or get ready to be tired all the time, or get ready to sacrifice all your hobbies. And I find that I'm a fairly resilient chappy, but it does get quite frustrating. So it's nice to talk to someone like yourself who's positive and optimistic about it, because it is the most important thing we'll ever do. There's a lot that can go wrong, but there's a lot can go right as well. Mm-hmm. So no, I don't think nervous is the right word. I'm gonna settle on daunted, and all the people who are saying, get ready for sacrifice your life, I can blooming shut up, because we both know it's going to be hard. We know it's going to be hard. We know it's going to be difficult. It's going to be the most challenging thing we do, but it will be okay. How about you?
I don't know if it's because we're in our 30s that I feel differently. I think I would have been nervous 10 years ago, but I'm not nervous. I'm just excited. I think I'm nervous about little events in time, like the birth itself. I'm worried, is Emma going to be okay? Am I going to be able to be the person that she needs me to be? Am I going to make a tit of myself in the ward, or what's going to happen? But I'm just worried about that one thing. But then once that's happened, it's I suppose I'm worried about tiny events in time, not the overall thing. So
anxiousness is very normal.
It's
a normal response.
Yeah, it's kind of a useful anxiety.
Yeah,
really. And
I think it's healthy because it means it shows you're taking it seriously.
Yeah, when we were getting together, me and Emma, I told her about this book at the time called Flatland. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
Edwin Abbott, he wrote it about, I think it was the 1800s. It's really good. It's about a square that gets lifted into 3 dimensions, and it can see everything from above. It can see its 2-dimensional world, and it's experiencing 3 dimensions. And the idea is that you read the book and you're supposed to be able to imagine if you as a three-dimensional creature is lifted into four dimensions, and what would you see, and how would you explain it to those people back home? And so what happens is this square goes back to two dimensions, and it tries to explain things. It tries to explain, oh, I went north by north. I was up, but I was going up from up. And they're like, what are you on about? Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And so when we were getting together, me and Emma, we realised our relationship is in Spaceland, as it was called, three dimensions. And all the problems that we came across, so how is Emma going to end her relationship? How is this? How am I going to leave my job? All this stuff. But we said, we don't really care. Like, that's flatland trouble. That's trouble that just it will pass. It will come and go. It's not really important. And in 50 years' time, when we're, I don't know, holding hands in a nursing home or whatever we're doing, we're going to probably have forgotten all about that stuff, because the relationship is in four dimensions. It just transcends time. It's right up there above this three-dimensional world. And so I think that the baby coming along, the role I have as a father and me and Emma as parents, it does transcend time. It's going to be a thing that exists once we're both gone. And I kind of already feel like I know this kid in a strange way, like it's already happened. And so all these things that I'm nervous about, like the birth itself and the first day of school, all these things, and they're just irrelevant. They're part of it, but I don't really care. Like, I know I'll be nervous and I'll deal with it, but I'm just excited about that four-dimensional Spaceland relationship that we're going to have together, really.
Well, they describe it as the closest thing you can come to immortality, right? Yeah. That's really interesting. I like that.
Yeah. Should we end it there?
Let's end it there.
Yeah.
Mr. Day, Mr. Greenwoods.
Mr. Greenwoods.
Mr. Greenwoods. It's been a pleasure. Let's do it from the kids 6 months.
We'll do it in 6 months.